Tom Harris was a quiet man who lived far away from the noise of the city. His small ranch sat between rolling hills and endless open land in Montana. The air was always clean, and the nights were filled with the sound of crickets and the smell of hay. For years, this was his world, peaceful, lonely, and unchanging. Tom had once been full of life. Years ago, he had built the ranch with his wife, Sarah. Together, they dreamed of raising a family, filling the house with laughter and love. But life had other plans. Sarah passed away young, leaving Tom broken and alone. Since that day, he buried his pain in work, mending fences, caring for his horses, and keeping the land alive. He didn't talk much to anyone. The nearest town was miles away, and people there knew him as the man who smiled politely but kept his distance. Some said he never recovered from his wife's passing. Others said he was just a man who preferred silence over noise. One evening, the sky was painted in orange and purple as the sun dipped behind the hills. Tom was closing the barn after feeding his horses when he heard a strange sound. An engine coughing, then dying. He looked up and saw the faint headlights of a car stopped near his gate. He frowned. It was unusual to see anyone on that road after dark. Grabbing his lantern, he walked toward the gate. As he got closer, he saw a young woman standing by the car, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. The cold wind blew her hair across her face and she looked lost. "Evening," Tom said softly. "You need help?" The woman turned. Her eyes were tired and her voice trembled. "My car just stopped. I've been trying to call for help, but there's no signal." Tom nodded. "No surprise. There's hardly any service out here. You're lucky you found my gate." He opened it and gestured toward his house. "You can stay at the ranch tonight. It's not safe being out here alone in the cold. I'll take a look at your car in the morning." The woman hesitated. She looked unsure, almost afraid. But she was shivering, and the night air was getting colder by the minute. Finally, she gave a small nod. "Thank you," she whispered. "My name's Emily." Inside the warm glow of Tom's ranch house, the air smelled of coffee and wood smoke. Emily sat quietly by the table while Tom heated up some soup. She looked around the room, old family pictures, a rocking chair by the fire, a faded photo of a smiling woman on the mantel. "That's my wife, Sarah," Tom said, noticing her gaze. "Been gone a long time." "I'm sorry," Emily said softly. Tom gave a gentle smile. "It's all right. Life has its own way of teaching us." He placed a bowl of soup in front of her. "Eat up. You look like you've had a long road." Emily thanked him and began to eat, though her hands trembled slightly as she held the spoon. Tom watched her quietly. There was something unusual about her. She looked tired, not just from travel but from something deeper, like the weight of secrets carried too long. She had an old coat wrapped tightly around her and a small bundle of cloth pressed close to her chest. She never set it down, not even while eating. Tom noticed, but he didn't ask. He had learned long ago that everyone carries something they're not ready to share. After dinner, Tom offered her the guest room. "You can rest there," he said kindly. "It's been empty for years, but it's warm." Emily gave a faint smile. "Thank you. You've been very kind." Tom nodded and wished her good night. He went to his own room, but he couldn't sleep. There was something about that young woman that stirred a strange feeling in him, like a memory trying to surface. He could hear the wind howling outside, and now and then the faint creak of the old house settling. But what he couldn't ignore was the soft sound of crying coming from the guest room. He sat up listening. It was gentle at first, like someone trying hard not to be heard. After a moment, he got up and walked quietly down the hall. He knocked gently on her door. "Emily, you okay in there?" There was silence for a few seconds. Then her voice came small and shaky. "I'm fine. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to wake you." "You didn't," Tom said. "I just wanted to make sure you're all right." He waited, but she didn't reply. Something in her tone made him uneasy. Not fear exactly, but deep sadness. After a pause, Emily's voice came again, quieter this time. "Mr. Harris, can I show you something?" Tom hesitated. "Of course." She opened the door just a little, enough for him to see her standing by the small table near the window. The bundle of cloth was there, resting in front of her. Her hands shook slightly as she looked at him. "There's something I need to tell you," she said. "Something I've been carrying for a long time. But before I do, I want you to see this." Tom stepped closer. The room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of a lamp. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees. Emily's eyes were filled with fear and tears as she looked down at the cloth. "Please, take the cloth off," she whispered. Tom blinked, confused. "What is it? Just... Please," she said again. "You'll understand." For a moment, he hesitated. He wasn't sure what he was about to see, but something in her voice told him it wasn't something dangerous. It was something painful. He reached out slowly, his rough hands brushing against the soft, faded fabric. The cloth felt old, worn out from years of being handled. He began to unfold it layer by layer. Emily turned away, as if she couldn't bear to watch. Inside the bundle, he saw something small, pieces of paper, a photograph, and something that looked like a baby blanket. He frowned, feeling a chill run down his spine. There was a strange familiarity about the pattern stitched on the cloth. He touched the corner and froze. The letters sewn in blue thread spelled S.H., his wife's initials, Sarah Harris. Tom's breath caught in his throat. His heart started to beat faster. He stared at Emily, his mind spinning. How could she have something that belonged to Sarah? Emily looked up, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't know how to tell you," she said. "I found it not long ago. It belonged to her, your wife." Tom stepped back, completely lost for words. The room felt heavy, filled with questions he didn't know how to ask. Emily took a shaky breath. "Please let me explain. I promise. I mean no harm," but Tom couldn't speak. His eyes went from the blanket to the photograph where a younger Sarah smiled, holding someone in her arms. The edges of the picture were torn, faded with time. He realized then that whatever story Emily carried, it wasn't just hers. Somehow it was his too. And standing there under the soft lamplight, he knew that his quiet life on the ranch was about to change forever. Tom stood frozen, staring at the baby blanket in his hands. His fingers traced the faded blue stitches again and again, as if touching those tiny letters could somehow make sense of what was happening. S.H., Sarah Harris, his late wife's initials. His voice trembled slightly as he looked up at Emily, who was still standing near the table with tears rolling down her cheeks. "Where did you get this?" Tom finally asked, his tone quiet but heavy with emotion. Emily took a shaky breath. "It's a long story, and it's not easy to tell," she said softly. "But I think you have a right to know." Tom nodded slowly and sat down. His heart was pounding. He didn't understand, but something inside him told him that whatever Emily was about to say would change everything. Emily pulled out a small folded paper from the cloth. It looked old, with yellow edges and faded ink. "I found this," she said, handing it to him. "It's a hospital record. From 24 years ago." Tom unfolded the paper. His eyes scanned the words, and then his hands began to shake. It had Sarah's name on it. The date was close to the time she had gone to the hospital, the day she had told him she lost their baby before birth. He had never questioned it. The doctors had told him there had been complications, and Sarah had been too weak to talk about it afterward. Tom's voice cracked. "This says, the baby survived?" Emily nodded, tears spilling faster. "Yes, I'm that baby, Mr. Harris." For a long moment, silence filled the small room. Tom's world seemed to stop. The lamp flickered softly beside them, the only sound the wind whistling faintly through the cracks in the window. "You're saying..." Tom's voice barely came out. "You're saying you're my daughter?" Emily nodded again, unable to speak. She wiped her tears, trying to stay composed, but her heart was breaking from the pain of the moment. "I didn't know for most of my life," she whispered. "I grew up with another family. They were good to me, but I always felt like something was missing. When my adoptive mother passed away, I found some papers she had kept hidden in an old box. They led me here." Tom leaned back, his eyes wide with disbelief. He felt dizzy. For years he had believed his child had died before birth. He had grieved for that child, and now suddenly she was standing right in front of him. "Why didn't the hospital tell me?" he whispered, mostly to himself. "Why did they lie to us?" Emily shook her head. "I don't know. The paperwork was mixed up, and I was listed as an unclaimed child. Someone adopted me a few weeks later. My adoptive parents didn't know who my real family was." Tom's eyes filled with tears. He looked at Emily closely now, really seeing her for the first time. Her eyes, soft, calm, kind, were just like Sarah's. Her smile, even through the tears, had that same warmth, and the way she hesitated before speaking reminded him of his wife when she used to choose her words carefully. It was real. He could feel it. This wasn't a lie. This was the truth he had never known. Tom covered his face with his hands, trying to steady himself. "All these years," he murmured. "I thought I had lost everything, and you were out there." Emily stepped closer, her voice trembling. "I didn't come to hurt you. I just wanted to see where I came from. Who I came from. I never expected you'd still be here living on this ranch." Tom looked up at her again, his eyes soft now. "I never left," he said quietly. "I couldn't. This land. It's all that's left of the life Sarah and I built." Emily sat down across from him, clutching the baby blanket in her lap. "When my adoptive mother died," she began, "I felt completely alone. I didn't know who I was anymore. Then I found this blanket and the hospital paper. I started searching for Sarah Harris. When I learned she had passed away, my heart broke. But then I found your name connected to hers. And I wanted to meet you, even just once." Tom listened quietly, his mind a whirlwind of memories and emotions. He remembered Sarah sitting on the porch, sewing little blue letters into that same blanket, smiling as she talked about the baby they were expecting. He remembered the day she came home from the hospital, pale and silent, telling him the baby hadn't survived. He never asked for details. He was too lost in grief. And now, after all those years, the truth had finally found him. Tom reached out, his rough, calloused hands trembling slightly as he placed them over hers. "Emily," he said softly, "you don't have to call me Mr. Harris anymore." Her lips quivered. "Then what should I call you?" Tom smiled weakly through his tears. "You can call me Dad, if you want to." The word hit her like a wave. For a moment she couldn't speak. She had imagined this moment so many times in her life, but never thought it would really happen. She nodded, whispering through her tears, "Dad." Tom stood up slowly and walked to the old cabinet in the corner. He opened a drawer and pulled out a small box. Inside were a few of Sarah's things: a ring, a letter, and a photograph of them together on their wedding day. He handed the photo to Emily. "She would have loved to meet you," he said. "You were her biggest dream." Emily looked at the picture, tears falling onto the faded surface. "I wish I could have known her." "She's here," Tom said softly, placing a hand over his heart. "She's always been here." The night grew quiet after that. They talked for hours, and about Sarah, about Emily's childhood, about the years they had both spent feeling lost. Tom told her stories of the ranch, how he and Sarah had built it from nothing and how much they had dreamed of having a child to share it with. Emily listened, her heart full of emotions she couldn't name, sorrow for the years lost, but joy for what she had finally found. By the time the sun began to rise, the ranch was filled with a new kind of light. It wasn't just dawn. It felt like a new beginning. The next day, Tom took Emily to the small hill behind the ranch where Sarah was buried. The air was fresh, the grass soft under their feet. Tom stood beside the simple stone that read Sarah Harris, beloved wife and mother. Emily placed the baby blanket at the foot of the grave. "I finally found you," she whispered. Tom stood beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "She'd be proud of you," he said. "She'd be so proud that you found your way home." Emily turned to him, her eyes glistening. "I feel like I've come home for the first time in my life." Tom smiled, a smile he hadn't worn in years. "You have," he said simply. From that day on, the ranch didn't feel empty anymore. Emily stayed for a while, helping around the farm, learning about the land and spending time with her father. The two grew close, finding comfort in the bond they had both missed for so long. Sometimes, in the quiet evenings, they'd sit together on the porch, watching the sunset. Tom would glance at her and see Sarah's spirit in her smile. Emily would look out at the horizon and feel a peace she had never known before. The story of the rancher and the lost daughter soon became a quiet legend in the nearby town. People spoke of it softly, almost with reverence, how a broken-down car had led a lost soul back to her home, and how fate had given a father and daughter a second chance at love and family. And every night, as the wind whispered through the tall grass and the stars filled the sky, Tom would whisper a silent thank you to Sarah, to fate, and to the little miracle who had knocked on his door one cold evening and changed his life forever. Because sometimes the truth doesn't destroy, it heals. And sometimes the road you never meant to take leads you exactly where you were always meant to be.